I found someone worth my time. My name is Nathan Blackwood. I'm a 44-year-old commercial architect in Charleston, South Carolina, sitting in my home office staring at an email from my wife of 12 years. Olivia was supposedly at a wellness retreat in Colorado. The timestamp showed 11:22 p.m. her time. I've moved your inheritance into my personal account. It's better this way. Attached was a photo. Blurry, her and some guy with a beard on a balcony, sunset behind them, glasses of wine. Her smile different than any she'd given me in years. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stared out at the backyard we'd redesigned together 3 summers ago. The stone path I'd laid while she planted lavender along the edges. All that work for a home she apparently had no intention of coming back to. That money, $587,000 from my Aunt Margaret, wasn't just cash. It represented the woman who'd taken me in after my parents died when I was 14, who'd worked double shifts at the hospital to put me through college, who'd left everything to me with one simple note: build something that lasts. I looked at my phone. No missed calls, no texts asking if I'd seen the email. Just silence, like she'd already moved on to her new life. The signs had been there for months. Olivia's wellness retreats had become more frequent. 2 days became 4 days, became week-long excursions. Her phone stayed face down on tables. Passwords changed. Conversations shortened. 3 months ago, she'd asked odd questions about the inheritance. Where exactly the money was. Which accounts. Whether we should diversify where it was held. I'd nodded, said I'd think about it. I reopened the laptop, read the email again. Noticed she hadn't even bothered with a greeting or my name. Just the declaration and the theft. I typed 6 words in response. Thanks for letting me know. Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a long day. But sitting alone in that king-sized bed, I realized something that should have bothered me, but didn't. I slept better knowing she wasn't coming home. What Olivia didn't know was that I'd sensed something wrong months ago. The inheritance had never been where she thought it was, and her attempt to take it had just given me everything I needed. I met Olivia 15 years ago at an industry conference in Atlanta. She was launching her wellness brand, looking for architects to design her first brick-and-mortar space. I was 5 years into my career, hungry for projects that weren't just office buildings and parking structures. We married within 3 years, built a life in Charleston where my firm had its headquarters, bought the Craftsman on Palmetto Drive with a wraparound porch she'd always wanted. No kids. Her choice. The business is my baby, she'd say. I understood. My buildings were mine. For 8 years, things worked. I designed. She built her brand of organic products and wellness retreats. We traveled. We hosted dinner parties. We looked good on paper and in person. Then my Aunt Margaret got sick. Cancer. Fast and merciless. I took a 6-month partial leave to care for her in Savannah. Olivia visited twice. Hospitals depress me, she explained. I didn't push it. When Margaret died, she left everything to me. The money surprised me. I'd had no idea she'd invested so carefully over the years. Olivia seemed surprised too, suddenly interested in our financial planning in ways she'd never been. We should put it toward expanding the business, she suggested one night over dinner. Her business, she meant. I need to think about what Margaret would want, I said. That was the first crack. Small but visible. Others followed. Olivia started traveling more for research and supplier meetings. Her calls became shorter, often with voices in the background that went quiet when I asked who she was with. Our neighbor Carl stopped by one afternoon while Olivia was at a team retreat in Boulder. Saw someone dropping her off last week, he mentioned casually. Late, wasn't it? Thought you were out of town. I had been. 3-day conference in Chicago. I thanked him for the homemade bread his wife had sent over, didn't ask questions, just filed it away. Then came the password changes. Banking apps locked when they'd never been before. Conversations about finances that ended abruptly when I asked specific questions. One night I found her on the phone in the backyard, voice low, laughing in ways she didn't laugh with me anymore. Just Rebecca from the studio, she said, coming inside. Rebecca, who'd left the business 8 months earlier. I nodded, didn't correct her. Just watched as she poured herself more wine and changed the subject. The foundation was cracking beneath us, and only one of us was being honest about it. 2 weeks before Olivia left for what would be her final retreat, my firm's financial advisor called. Someone's been trying to access information about your trust accounts, Marcus said, using your personal information, but not passing the security protocols. Which accounts? I asked, though I already knew. The inheritance funds. They tried using the last 4 of your social but couldn't answer the security questions. I thanked him, hung up, and sat at my desk for a long time. That night, Olivia asked if we could simplify our accounts. It's silly to have so many separate logins and passwords, she said, not meeting my eyes. We should consolidate everything. You're probably right, I said. I'll talk to Marcus about it. The next day, I drove to Savannah, met with Diana Wolf, my aunt's attorney for 20 years, and now mine. Explained my concerns without emotion or accusation. Just facts. Your aunt was wise to suggest the irrevocable trust structure, Diana said after I finished. The money is protected regardless of what happens in your marriage. And if someone tried to move those funds without authorization, Diana's expression hardened. That would be attempted financial fraud with clear legal consequences. I nodded. Let's document everything. And I want to set up a monitoring system that alerts us to any attempts to access, move, or change anything related to the trust. When I got home, Olivia had packed for her retreat. She kissed me briefly before leaving, already distant. I might extend this one, she said at the door. Really dive deep into the practice. I helped load her bags into her car, watched her drive away, went back inside, and opened my laptop. I didn't snoop through her emails or texts, didn't call her friends or check her location. I simply opened our shared cloud storage where we kept household documents. In a folder labeled Home Renovation Ideas, a project we discussed starting this year, I found what I was looking for. Documents she'd forgotten to move or delete. Screenshots of my accounts, copies of statements, notes about transfer protocols, a photo of a whiteboard with figures, my inheritance amount minus 20%, with the note, transfer fee explanation. She'd been planning this for months. I closed the folder, walked through our house with its carefully chosen furniture and artwork that told the story of who we pretended to be, and felt a strange calm settle over me. The betrayal wasn't shocking. What surprised me was my own response, not rage or grief, but clarity. For the first time in years, I saw our marriage for what it had become, a transaction she was now terminating because something more profitable had come along. I slept in the guest room that night, started making calls the next morning. By the time her email arrived 5 days later, I had already set everything in motion. After receiving Olivia's email, I waited exactly 24 hours before making my first move. No emotional response, no desperate calls or texts. Just methodical steps. First, I contacted Marcus and Diana, forwarding them Olivia's email with a simple note. Documentation requested. Both confirmed receipt. Neither needed further explanation. Then I called James Webb, a divorce attorney Diana had recommended months earlier during one of our hypothetical conversations. His secretary scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. By noon, Olivia had texted, "Did you get my email?" I responded, "Yes." "That's all you have to say?" She wrote back minutes later. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to James's office downtown, where Diana joined us by video call. "The attempted transfer creates a paper trail," James explained, reviewing the documents Diana had sent over. "There are multiple elements that work in your favor. The funds were inherited, never commingled with marital assets, properly maintained in a trust structure, and she is now openly admitted to attempting unauthorized access." "What's next?" I asked. "File for divorce immediately, citing financial misconduct. South Carolina isn't a no-fault state when fraud is involved." I signed the paperwork before leaving his office. At 4:30 p.m., my phone rang. Olivia's name on the screen. "You're being childish," she said when I answered. No greeting, no "how are you?" "This doesn't have to be difficult." "I agree," I said. "Then let's be adults about this. The money is already moved. Fighting it will just drain more through legal fees." "Where are you staying?" I asked, changing the subject. She paused, thrown off balance. "What does that matter?" "Just curious where home is now." "Nathan, focus. We need to discuss the financial arrangements. I'm having my lawyer draw up settlement papers. It's better for both of us to keep this clean." "Who's your lawyer?" I asked. "Samuel Richardson. He's already reviewing everything." I wrote down the name. "That's helpful. Thank you." "Nathan, are you even listening? This doesn't have to be difficult." "You said that already." I kept my voice neutral. "I appreciate your concern for making this easy." Another pause. "What are you doing?" "Nothing yet. Getting used to the idea, I guess." I could hear her relax on the other end, misreading my calm as resignation. "It's for the best," she said, softening her tone. "We've been moving in different directions for years. This is cleaner than dragging it out." "You're right," I agreed. "Cleaner is better." After we hung up, I called James back and gave him Samuel Richardson's information. Then I sent a single text to Olivia. "Taking some time to process. We'll reach out when I'm ready to discuss details." Her response came immediately. "Don't wait too long. Papers will be ready by Friday." At 6 p.m., Diana called. "The trust company has recorded 3 separate attempts to initiate transfers from the trust accounts today, all properly documented and blocked. And the monitoring system captured everything: IP addresses, login attempts, timestamps. The access location matches where the email originated from: Colorado, Denver, not Boulder." Diana paused. "There's more." The system flagged suspicious activity from last month. Someone exported account details and transfer protocols while logged in through your home network. We have timestamps and device identifiers. I thanked her and hung up, walked through the empty house that now felt more like evidence than a home. In the kitchen, I opened the bottle of 20-year-old scotch we'd been saving for our 15th anniversary, poured 2 fingers into a glass. Olivia thought she'd set the trap. She had no idea she'd walked right into one herself. The next morning, Samuel Richardson called. His tone was professionally cautious. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm representing your wife in your separation. She's indicated you're amenable to a straightforward settlement. Is that correct? Is that what she said? A slight hesitation. She mentioned you understood the situation. Which situation would that be, specifically? Another pause. The division of assets, including recent inheritance funds. Has she shown you documentation of these funds? She's provided statements, he said carefully. Recent ones from approximately 3 months ago. I made a note. And transfer confirmations? She's indicated those are forthcoming from the bank. I see. I kept my voice neutral. Has she also mentioned the structure of the inheritance? The irrevocable trust established by my late aunt? The legal impossibility of what she's claiming to have done? Silence. Mr. Richardson, I suggest you verify the information you've been given before proceeding. My attorney will send relevant documentation to your office today. After hanging up, I drove to Coastal Bank where Olivia and I had kept our personal accounts for years. The manager, Howard, had handled our mortgage refinancing 2 years earlier. I need to review recent activity on all joint accounts, I explained after he welcomed me into his office. Howard pulled up our information. His expression shifted as he scrolled through the screens. There have been significant withdrawals, he said, over the past 3 months. How significant? He turned the monitor toward me. Regular transfers from our joint account to one I didn't recognize. Small at first. $2,000, $3,500, then escalating. The most recent, $47,000, 2 weeks ago. This receiving account? I asked, pointing to the number. Is it with Coastal Bank? Howard checked. No, it's external. Western Valley Credit Union. I'd never heard of it. Can you print the transaction history for the past 6 months? While waiting for the printouts, I received a text from James. Richardson requesting urgent meeting. Tone significantly changed. By the time I returned to James's office, the picture was becoming clearer. The Western Valley account had been opened 8 months ago in Olivia's name only. The address listed was an apartment in Denver, Colorado. Total withdrawals from our joint accounts, $178,000. By $250, she's been building a new life for a while, James observed. While still having access to mine, I added. We were reviewing the bank records when James's assistant announced Samuel Richardson was on the line. I've received the trust documentation, Richardson said, his voice tight. My client may have misrepresented certain aspects of the financial situation, including her ability to access or transfer those funds. That appears to be the case, James said. Given this new information, I believe it would be beneficial for all parties to discuss a revised approach. My client has already filed for divorce citing financial misconduct, James replied. The documentation speaks for itself. After the call ended, James looked at me. He'll drop her as a client by end of day. No legitimate attorney wants to be associated with this. What about the money she actually did take from the joint accounts? We'll include it in the filing. Document everything. Let her explain to a judge why she established a hidden residence and systematically drained marital assets. I nodded, feeling strangely hollow. The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't impulsive. It was calculated, planned over months while she slept beside me, ate across from me, made plans with me. There's one more thing, I said. I need to know who he is. Not for confrontation, not even for the divorce proceedings. I just need to understand the full scope of what I missed while building what I thought was a life together. James nodded. I'll have someone look into it, That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a courier holding an envelope. "Delivery for Nathan Blackwood," he said. Inside was a letter from Samuel Richardson, formally withdrawing as Olivia's legal representation, with copies sent to both Olivia and the court. Attached was a note from James. "First domino." My phone lit up minutes later. Olivia calling. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times before sending a text. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't respond. While eating a sandwich at the kitchen counter, I received an email from Diana with a subject line that simply read, "Update." The trust company had completed their investigation into the access attempts. They documented multiple unauthorized attempts over 3 months, all captured in detailed logs with IP addresses and timestamps. The report was attached, along with confirmation they'd referred the matter to their legal department for potential criminal investigation. "No action required from you at this time," Diana wrote. "But be aware this path is now open." I forwarded everything to James. Just after 9 p.m., another text from Olivia. "We need to talk now." I replied, "Through your new attorney, when you have one." "You've completely overreacted. I was angry when I sent that email. I didn't actually move anything." "That's not what the access logs show." A long pause before her next message. "What access logs?" Instead of answering, I sent one question. "Who is he?" 20 minutes passed. Finally, "This isn't about him." "Name." Another long pause. "Daniel. But he's not important." "Last name." "Whitman. He's just a friend who's helping me through this." "You're focusing on the wrong thing." I didn't respond further. Instead, I searched the name. Found a Daniel Whitman who taught at a wellness center in Denver. Former investment consultant according to his LinkedIn profile. Left the financial sector 3 years ago to pursue more meaningful connections. The next morning, I met with Carl, our neighbor. "The guy you saw dropping Olivia off," I began. "Would you recognize him again?" Carl nodded slowly. "Tall guy, beard, drives a gray Tesla." I showed him the photo from Olivia's email. "This him?" He squinted at the image. "Yeah, that's the guy. He was here maybe 5-6 times while you were traveling." I thanked him, asked if he'd be willing to provide a statement. He agreed without hesitation. At 11 a.m., James called. "We've got a complication. Olivia's hired Edward Barnes." Barnes had a reputation for aggressive divorce litigation. Expensive but effective. "He's requested an emergency hearing to contest the financial misconduct claim," James continued. "Says his client has evidence all financial decisions were discussed and agreed upon." "When's the hearing?" "Monday morning, 3 days away." I thought about the apartment in Denver, the Western Valley account, the man named Daniel who'd been in my house while I was away. "Let's give Barnes something to think about," I said. That afternoon, James delivered a package to Barnes's office containing copies of everything. The trust access logs, the bank records showing systematic withdrawals, the apartment lease in Denver, Carl's notarized statement about Daniel's visits, and screenshots from Olivia's home renovation ideas folder, showing her notes on how to access my accounts. By 5 p.m., James received a call from Barnes requesting an urgent meeting to discuss settlement options. "He's seen enough," James told me afterward. "Offered a clean split. She keeps what she already took, makes no further claims. You keep everything else, including the house and full inheritance." "Counter," I said. "She returns half of what she took from joint accounts and signs a non-disclosure agreement. I don't pursue the fraud angle." James raised an eyebrow. You could get more. I don't want more. I want done. The morning of what would have been our emergency hearing, Olivia and her attorney arrived at the courthouse to find James waiting with a settlement agreement already prepared. No Barnes, no judge, no public spectacle. I waited in the consultation room while James explained the terms. Olivia would transfer $89,000, half the money taken from joint accounts, back within 24 hours. She would make no claims against the inheritance or any other assets. She would sign a non-disclosure agreement preventing her from discussing our marriage or divorce with anyone. In exchange, I would not pursue any fraud charges related to the attempted theft of trust funds. Through the glass walls, I saw her face as James handed over the evidence file. Photographs, statements, account logs. Her expression shifted from defiance to shock, to something like defeat. She glanced toward the room where I sat, then quickly looked away. Barnes reviewed everything, leaning close to whisper in her ear. She nodded slowly. 10 minutes later, they entered the room. My client accepts the terms, Barnes stated formally. James slid the agreement across the table. Olivia signed without reading it, her handwriting shaky but determined. I signed my portion, then slid a separate envelope across to her. "What's this?" she asked, the first words she'd spoken. "The passwords," I said. "To the cloud storage, house alarm, everything else you might need to get whatever you left behind." Her eyes finally met mine, searching for anger or triumph, finding neither. She looked more lost than I'd ever seen her. "It was never about the money," I said quietly. "That would have been simpler." Barnes touched her elbow, guiding her to stand. She clutched the envelope as they left, never looking back. 6 months later, I sold the house on Palmetto Drive. Too many empty rooms, too many memories to paint over. The new owners, a young family with twins, loved the wraparound porch and the lavender along the stone path. I moved to a loft downtown, walking distance to my firm's office, bought less furniture, kept fewer things. Diana helped me restructure my aunt's inheritance into a foundation supporting architectural scholarships for kids who'd lost parents. Its first recipient was a 17-year-old girl from North Carolina whose essay about designing spaces that heal resonated with the selection committee. Margaret would have loved her, Diana said when we awarded the scholarship. I thought about my aunt often. Her practical wisdom, her insistence that creating something worthwhile required equal parts vision and vigilance. One afternoon, collecting mail in the lobby of my building, I found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a check for exactly $89,000 and a brief note. The rest of what I owed. Not just the money. No signature. None needed. That evening, I walked down to the waterfront where Olivia and I had once talked about opening a joint venture. A wellness space I would design, she would operate. A dream that had died long before our marriage had. I sat on a bench watching sailboats pass, the check still in my pocket. Tomorrow, I would deposit it into the foundation account. Another scholarship, another chance to build something that might last. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Dinner still on for 7? "Bringing that designer," I mentioned. I glanced at my watch. Just enough time to walk home, change, and head to the restaurant. Just enough time to decide to say yes to whatever came next. On my way, I texted back and stood to face the evening. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal isn't revenge. It's rebuilding.